what I was saying earlier about me feeling secure and feeling a sense of commitment in our relationship because I know logically that piece of paper is not going to stop you from leaving the relationship if you're not happy, but emotionally, it makes me feel secure.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's why I chose also marriage versus not marriage, just because it made me feel, and I was able to justify it logically by saying, oh yeah, we're legally tied. So therefore, she can't leave me. But we know that's not the case, right?
Yeah.
So
And sometimes that emotional security is so important for
it
a
is.
relationship.
Right.
Right. It helps you move into
Past that, yeah.
into like a deeper connection. Hi, welcome to the Magnetic Mismatch Show. This is Linda.
And this is Will, and I am full from our lunch.
What'd you eat?
Bun bo hui.
Was it good?
So good. We haven't had that in a while.
Yeah, so we've been going to this farmer's market, and they have an Asian vegetable stand, which
You are so excited about that,
which is incredible. And she had this farmer's market, they sell what they grow, right? And this lady had lemongrass, fresh lemongrass with dirt on it.
It's so hard to find that
It
at
is.
markets.
And when you do find it, it's like usually like wilted.
Yeah.
And the fragrance is like
gone.
It's not as like pungent.
Yeah.
But this one was like fresh, and I'm like, oh, we need to make bún bò Huế.
Yeah, that got me excited for sure. It's one of my favorite soups. So if you haven't ever tried it, you need to try it.
Yeah.
Especially if you like beef and stuff like that.
It's like a beef noodle soup.
Yeah. Vietnamese cuisine.
Yes.
But the funny part was that after we had our soup, I looked up on YouTube how to make bún bò Huế because I didn't trust you to make an authentic version of it.
That's pretty offensive because you've had it at restaurants before.
I have. See, that's why I compare it to, right? So I'm like, wait, but where's like, all the oil and like the pork feet, all this other stuff in there.
Yeah.
But I didn't see it in the soup. Yours is so clean. There's like
I think it's better.
No, I'm just teasing you, of course. It's really delicious. But the funny thing is that we always joke about how like your cooking style is just like, let me just throw a bunch of stuff in. There is no recipe. And then your mom, she cooks for us the same dish. And I'm like, I don't want to say it outright, but I'm like, what? How come your mom's dish tastes a little bit different? And it's like, like what else does she put
better?
in there? Yeah,
say it.
Your mom's her dishes usually come out a little bit better, not that much better, but it's noticeably better. And I try not to. I have to be very careful when I say that.
See, number one, I've never denied that. And number two, I'm always telling you it's my interpretation of the dish, right?
Yeah.
And number three, my mom even told you, she gave you a wise recommendation.
A warning.
Yeah. To be careful what you say.
Right.
Because you could end up eating cup of noodles instead.
Yeah. She at lunch, she was pretty much like, do you like her food or would you want to just be eating cup of noodles every night?
Yeah.
Ooh, you're right. So I don't live with your parents, right? So I live with you. So I have to be very smart about my choices of word. But yeah, so, this year it's actually going to be our 3rd year of being married. Can you believe it?
Yeah, we're 2.5 going on 3.
Yeah. And for some reason, it feels a lot longer than almost 3 years.
I was just joking about that the other day. One of my friends asked, how long have I been married? And I'm like, 2.5 years, but it feels like 8. I added on 5 years to our marriage because we spent like 1.5 years in quarantine together.
Right.
We were both working from home. So
I bet a lot of couples feel that way though.
Yeah, we were spending like 24 hours together. And keep in mind, there's no breaks. I mean, I'm pretty sure
there's no breaks.
Yeah, it wasn't like if we were frustrated with each other or if I needed like a change in scenery. If I could,
You're not stuck in
I couldn't call my friends to go hang out.
Right.
That
to vent to somebody else.
Yeah, to vent
in person. Yeah.
In person or to walk around the mall or,
Why not?
It was closed. But it's not even that. It's like and safety, right?
Yeah,
and it's a safety issues. I didn't want to bring COVID home to my parents.
Well, let's just put it this way. Last year, we saw more of each other and spent more time together than we have
the past 10 years, probably
exactly,
before the marriage.
Together. Yeah, because it's so condensed, right? In a normal time, all into 1 year. But the reason we bring that up is because our topic today is exactly on marriage, and it got us laughing about, that decision, right? Before, like 3 years ago, we made the decision to get married, but we sometimes joke about it. It's like, should we have gotten married? Was it actually a good idea? Like, and why do some people choose to get married and others choose not to? Because I think you can agree with me that a lot of our friends or colleagues or people our age and our generation, it's becoming more common to not get married, right?
Absolutely.
It's more accepted too.
Yeah. And I just feel like if you look at it in the big picture, you could have everything a married couple have without having to get married.
So that's true. Like there's for the emotional stuff, right? Because a lot of times people decide to get married for various reasons. And I think one of the top reasons people say they chose to get married or the benefit of getting married is financials, right?
Or the commitment, the love commitment.
Yeah.
But you could have that in a committed relationship.
Right. So are you saying that we technically didn't need to get married? Or should?
You know my stance on that.
Well, you were very indifferent.
Yeah.
We had this conversation.
We had this conversation. I was very open about it. I told you, and you were almost the same way, but you were leaning.
I was on the fence too.
Yeah, you were on the fence, but you were leaning towards more on the getting married side.
So you know how like when you're on the fence, like usually you'll have one leg on one side, the other leg on the other side. That's kind of painful, by the way. But for me, I was probably, even though I was on the fence, I think I had two legs hanging on the other side. I hadn't jumped over though
to the marriage side. You just needed a little push.
I needed a little nudge, right?
Yeah.
Because a part of me, I think I always knew that I did want to get married. I don't know if that was just instilled in me or whatever, but that a part of me did want to get married. I think for me though, why it took a decade for me to actually make that proposal to you was because I was putting off and procrastinating having to make a decision one way or the other, because I knew where you stood. You were very much either way is cool. And
I meant it.
And, well, that's the thing. I didn't know if you really meant it, even though I'm like, okay, I don't think she's lying about it. But then part of me still was like, does she really mean that? Or is this something she's just saying? And then it's like leaving it up to me to make the decision. And then if I make it, then later down the road, I'm going to get hit randomly in the middle of the night.
Why did you marry me?
Yeah. Like how you always do.
I just never felt that, I guess that need to get married is because I never got the pressure to get married.
From your parents, yeah. They're so laid back.
Yeah, I think if they were pressuring me, I probably would have felt
a little bit more urgency, right?
Or like marriage is important.
But even as a kid, they never talked about that? Wow.
I was never the girl that had a wedding dress planned out or, like a fairy tale wedding. I think they were pushing so much on independence that, marriage wasn't the first thing.
It was like the last thing on the priority list.
It wasn't even on my priority list.
Wow.
It was just, because with them, they were always instilling in me that find your own happiness and strength to stand on your own, and then let everything else falls into its place.
Yeah, because relationships are meant to enhance your life, not to be the sole thing that determines your happiness, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, your parents were so chill. It was like the opposite of my mom and my dad, when it came to this topic of being married. You remember that, right?
I remember that, yeah.
I had a little nudge from my mom,
I think you got more than a nudge. She's probably like socking you.
Yeah, definitely.
Punching you. Hurry up.
Yeah, because once I hit 30 years old, I think, how many years were we in that relationship at that point? I don't remember, but quite a few, right? And as I hit my 30s, that's when my mom really started kind of applying the pressure and kept asking every time we talked, just like, so when are you getting married? It wasn't even, are you guys getting married? It was when, right? So I think for her and her generation and her, our culture and all that, it's almost like a taboo to even think about the possibility of deciding not to get married, or like, it to her, that doesn't even exist. It's not even an option, right? It's like, no, you are getting married. And if one of the kids ever said to her, I don't want to get married, I don't even know how she would take that, if that would actually compute, like, because it's so out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But how did that pressure make you feel? Did it make you less want to get married, or?
You know what, though? I will say this. Her bringing it up, prior to her bringing it up, it, like, getting married, like I said, was always in the back of my mind. And I think a part of me knew I wanted to get married, right? That's just something I wanted, but I never wanted to bring it up on the priority list to think about and make it a reality. Because I knew if I did that, then I actually have to make a decision now, right? A life-altering decision.
It's a huge decision.
And,
really
exactly. A part of me in my mind, when I think about marriage, to me, it's so final, right? Emotionally, that's the way I look at it, is if I'm going to get married to somebody, I want to do it with the right person, and I only want to do it once. That's the way I believe.
That's the goal.
That's the goal.
That's the goal.
But logically, I knew that's BS, right? In the sense that if you look at statistics in America, at least, divorce rates are 50%, meaning it's a coin flip, right? And to me, logically, like, if I'm taking the emotion out of it, that question, it was kind of like, I know the reality is that if you get married, it's not forever necessarily. It's really not. You don't know. There's so many variables.
Yeah.
I'd like to believe that it's forever, and I hope it is, right, from the emotional standpoint. But logically, I have to be realistic too. There's always that chance that things might not work out.
Yeah.
So
what made you decide, okay, fine, I'm getting married?
So my mom, kind of coming back to your question, is her bringing it up made me think about it more, and her putting a little bit of pressure on me. It didn't sway me one way or the other necessarily. It just forced me to think more about it.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that kind of pushed me over to make me jump to the other side of the fence was probably thinking further out. So, like, I try to think I do this with a lot of decisions, in life. I try to put myself in 10 years version from myself, or 20 years. If I think about now in my 40s or 50s, and I'm looking back on my life and I say, would I feel a sense of regret, even if it's a little bit of regret for not having done something? Then that means I have to go for it, right? So, like, I thought about how I would feel if I chose not to get married, even though a part of me did want to get married and I would have regretted it.
Mm-hmm.
Then that's kind of what I think pushed me over the edge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What about for you, being more indifferent, as you said? But I don't know if you could fully be indifferent though. I feel like there's still, even now, I gotta ask you, it's like there's gotta be leaning one way more than the other, even if it's by 1%. I have to believe that it was guaranteed not completely 50-50, that 50% you don't want to get married, 50% you want to get married.
Okay.
What were you leaning more towards?
You know what? Okay. So
the truth must come out.
Okay, so there's a difference before we got married and then now after, right? So before we got married, I was really, like, truly, if I was honest with myself, I would have really been happy with either way. Just because I'm very logical, right? I like to think things through. And for me, a piece of paper does not dictate whether I'm happy in a relationship or not. And I truly believe that us being together is a choice. So with that piece of paper, we'll probably think, twice about wanting to leave the relationship when things get hard, right? Because there's legal issues that are tied to the relationship now, or legal protections, right? So we'll most likely work on it a little harder before we think of the D word, right?
You can't just leave whenever you want. Right?
Exactly.
You have to consider, oh man, it's going to be a hassle. There's going to be all these other hoops I got to jump through to get it.
Yeah, and the
done.
lawyers and this and that.
Yeah.
Versus, in a relationship, we could just choose to end things, even though it'll be hard. And of course, there's ties to it too, like your family and friends, right? That will make us think twice as well, but it's not going to be as difficult. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, if we choose not to be together, then nothing really stops you. You'll find a way to leave the relationship.
Sure.
So for me...
So you were actually indifferent prior to getting married?
Yeah.
Okay. Now what about after?
But I think, as time went on, the reason why I chose to say yes and get married is because... I think about my family and my parents. They're getting older, and I do understand that their values are different back then, right? It's like you marry someone because it's almost like your security, because you're stronger as a couple than you are individually. And when you're married, it's like you almost become a unit, like a legal unit. And I think I just wanted to get married to give them a peace of mind.
Yeah.
A peace of mind that their daughter has someone to stand by her side, through good and bad times, and especially the tough times. And then also, I think I just wanted to share that moment, right, with my family. And what other better way than...
Like your wedding day?
Yeah, like my wedding day. Mm-hmm. And it's nice, like, your wedding day. What other days do you have where, your family and friends are flying in my case, all over the world, right? Yeah. Like different countries, different states, like to come see us and to have everyone together. Like that was really special. And so now that I've gotten married, I would say now I'm leaning towards the marriage.
I hope so. I hope you're not regretting it.
No, I'm not regretting it, but
your perspective has changed.
My perspective changed, yeah. And now, when I think about it, I mean, we don't have kids yet, right? Mm-hmm. But if we do, and if I have a girl, I like to be able to share, that special moment with her, or pass down my wedding dress. And a part of me, it's kind of romantic too.
Yeah.
Right.
Who doesn't love that, like, happily ever after kind of ending?
Yeah. It's almost like a happy ending.
Yeah.
Or a happily ever after. Is it realistic? No, it's not realistic, but because, things can change, people change. But it's just a nice thought, right?
Uh-huh. So that was so because you've been married now, your opinion of marriage is different.
Yeah.
Okay. And so would that be the advice you would give, or maybe not advice, but suggestion if somebody was debating, if they're on the fence, in their relationship, whether they want to get married or not?
I mean, I don't think you should make to get married and then make the decision. I think you should make that decision before
well, yeah,
getting
that's what I
married.
mean.
Yeah, but I think you should, if you're indifferent, I guess it's based on what you want, and also just maybe take a step back and look at the bigger picture. Why yes, and then why no?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we can't sit here and tell you exactly what you should do, whether you should get married or not. I mean, obviously, that's between you and your partner.
Yeah.
But I think the big thing for me, I think, is you got to spend some time thinking about it, right? I don't think it could be a decision you can take lightly and just on a whim say, all right, let's do it, let's go to Vegas and get married, right? I mean, you could.
You could.
And we know people that do it. All power to you. But I feel like that's something that deserves a little bit more of your attention, right? And I think a lot of times, when you look at like now being married, I can see some benefits to it, maybe. And to be fair, you could probably get the same thing if you didn't get married, like financials, for example, like, sharing household expenses. Like that's been very helpful for us.
That's huge because it's cheaper to split rent, food.
Yeah, everything.
And then you can buy things in bigger bulk.
Yeah.
Economy of scale.
Hey, you benefit a lot from like our grocery bill in the sense that you get to eat a lot of different dishes.
Yeah.
Throughout the week versus, right? Because you don't eat that much.
No, it's nice. And it's nice to just have someone to share everything with. So, with everything, you have your ups and your downs.
Yeah.
And it's nice to have someone there to share basically everything.
Yeah, but that's the question, right? But do you have to get married in order for that to happen, to have those things?
No, absolutely not.
So what do you think is the thing that makes the difference then for someone deciding to, like, if you were to put it side by side, I mean, we're kind of saying it's practically the same thing. So what's the main difference in terms of being legally married versus not?
Yeah. See, that's one of those arguments. You can technically find ways to, even like legal stuff, right? Ways to work around the legal system to have the same rights.
Because that's probably the biggest thing, right? Is the legal aspect.
Yeah,
of making certain decisions or having certain powers as a spouse versus, a partner that's not legally married.
Yeah, because my argument, like my thinking, is let's say if something happens to one of us, right? And if we're not married, then my thing is that I wouldn't have a say in what happens.
Right.
And
maybe the family is in conflict with you, right?
Exactly. The family will get to have the say, not you. But then now there's ways to work around that.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure what the laws are, but the specifics, but I'm pretty sure there are ways that you don't have to get married to be able to have a say in, certain medical emergencies and stuff.
Yeah.
But so for me, it's more of just a mental thing.
Yeah, emotional
connection, I guess. Like,
right.
Just knowing that it's like built into the marriage.
Mm-hmm. I think that goes the same with like what I was saying earlier about me feeling secure and feeling a sense of commitment in our relationship, because I know logically that piece of paper is not going to stop you from leaving the relationship if you're not happy, but emotionally, it makes me feel secure.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's why I chose also marriage versus not marriage, just because it made me feel, and I was able to justify it logically by saying, oh yeah, we're legally tied. So therefore, she can't leave me, but we know that's not the case, right?
Yeah.
So,
and sometimes that emotional security is so important for a relationship,
right?
It helps you move into
past that.
into like a deeper connection.
Right. I think that's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that we're able to share it and I can trust you, right? More fully. Even again, it's more for me than it is for you potentially, right? If I'm the one making that decision for me. And that's the thing, you have to make that this kind of decision for you. Don't make it seem like I'm doing it for the other person only.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think, you know, those are great reasons for why people choose to get married and stuff like that. But I also think that sometimes, and you and I both know people, and we've seen people that probably shouldn't get married, as a nice way to put it, I guess.
If you're shocked that you got a wedding invitation, they're the couple.
Right. You know what I mean, though? Like, I think there's some pretty apparent ones, like situations where somebody might want to think twice, or at least give it a little bit more thought before they just jump right into the marriage.
Yeah.
So what do you think are some, I don't know, examples or situations that's a good idea to do?
Example is just to keep in mind that marriage does not fix the issues that you've had beforehand.
I don't know how or why people make that connection that just by getting married, all my problems are going to go away. And this person that I've been dating for a couple of years is now a completely different person.
Yeah.
Like they're going to be a better version all of a sudden.
I think it's like, if it's like your life partner.
Yeah.
In your head, you kind of feel like, okay, so now that they're my life partner, my forever, they're going to try harder to be a better person.
Okay. That makes sense.
Or we're so committed that we're going to resolve every issues together.
That's okay. That makes a little bit more sense to me.
And we respect each other.
It's like you think that by being married, they're making not just a commitment. You're making a commitment to each other that this is forever, like you said. And so because we're stuck together now and I'm your only option, right? Then you're going to try harder to make it work.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that's not true.
That's not always true. Because I was going to say, like, I feel like sometimes people, when they get into a marriage, you get complacent too, or it can happen.
Yeah. No, but you know what? I feel like whatever issues we've had before the marriage, or anything that annoys you, it gets amplified. It's because you see this person a lot more often.
Yeah. It's even more apparent,
it's
right?
It's more apparent, and issues can build upon itself.
Right.
So whatever issues you've had before the marriage is going in the marriage, and marriage is hard. So now you have more issues added on top of it.
It could get explosive.
Yeah, so you need to constantly work on any issues that you have, because if not, it'll keep building and it'll become an issue.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like those issues, those problems, a way that somebody is, habits, right? Those don't just change simply by being married. Those things take effort, and it takes a lot of time to work on fixing those things, right? Even when you're in the marriage.
Yeah, and
but the marriage itself won't fix it.
No, let me tell you, and when you get married, there are habits that you didn't even know they had.
That's true. You might discover even more stuff that anger you or annoy you.
Exactly.
So we're not going to go through that list here, because that'll take hours of yours. And you don't want me to put you on blast like that. But
likewise.
But I also think, like, you know, another reason that sometimes people get married that may not necessarily be the healthiest is that you simply want to get married to this person because you don't want to be alone. You're afraid of dying alone. You're afraid of just not having somebody there with you to go through life.
Yeah. You know, I just feel like life is too short to have to spend it with someone you don't want to spend it with, because a lot of times it's better to be happy by yourself alone and choose to spend it with who you want to spend it with and be happy than be in a relationship where it's constant arguing or tension.
Right.
Because I just feel like that could create so much more stress and unhappiness in your life than if you were to be alone.
Yeah, I think that's what people kind of have to choose between. And for whatever reason, sometimes people choose having somebody there versus like that to them is a better solution than being happy on their own.
But I get it. But I get it too. It's scary being alone.
Absolutely. We've all been there, right?
Yeah, it's scary being alone. And especially if you're the type that's in like always in a long-term relationship.
You've never had time to be on your own or single
it's
for a
scary.
while.
It's scary to have to face the world with no one by your side. But I can say that when you do, it's very empowering.
And I think you find other ways. Just because you don't have a partner doesn't mean you don't have people there for you, right?
Yeah, you always have your family, your friends,
colleagues, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there is still a support system that you can rely on. So no, that's very true. I think what other reasons do you see, like for someone that might not be the best idea, when it comes to jumping into a marriage?
I think you shouldn't jump into a marriage if you absolutely do not believe in marriage.
And it's silly when you say that, right? Like, why would you get into something that you don't really want to get into?
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? I think
pressure.
There's pressure, external factors, third parties, right?
What if your spouse wants to get married?
Yeah.
And you don't want to get married?
And that's the thing, right? Like, let's say we have a situation where you're really in love with your partner. You've been dating for a while, and maybe you guys haven't really talked about marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone, it happens, right?
Happens,
it goes like for us for a while, we didn't talk about it because we were happy, and this subject just never really. Maybe it was the elephant in the room that we didn't want to address, right? But at some point, you kind of have to address it, and so when you finally bring it up, then it's like you realize, like, oh wow, Linda actually really wants to get married, but I don't. And it's kind of like you look at it and you say, wow, we've already been together for 5 years, for example. That's a long time, right? And I'm kind of pot committed, right? I put in so much time and energy and effort into this relationship. But we agree on everything else. Everything else is great. But when it comes to this pretty big decision, maybe we're not in agreement. What if I just decided then, you know what, I love this person, and if that's what they want, I'm just going to do it, even though I hate it. I don't want to get married, but she does, and therefore I'm going to, placate. I'm going to, pass it over to her. I'll just do it for her sake.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is
like
that
in
bad?
that, yeah. I think in that situation, you have two decisions, right? One, you don't get married, and most likely the relationship will dissolve because it's not fair for the person who wants to get married and not be able to get what they want.
Someone has to win, right?
Yeah, or you fold and you get married. But I think before you make that decision, you should really think things through, or go seek therapy and it's helpful to make certain decisions like that.
Mm-hmm.
With a trained a relationship professional, right? You and your significant other can sit down and really, really talk about it, because if you just fold and not think things through, you could create resentment in the relationship. Yeah. Or when things go sour, or when you hit a rough patch, it's easy to blame it on, see, that's what happens. That's what happens when you get married.
Right.
Marriage destroys everything because it puts so much pressure on the relationship. It's so easy to blame it on something that you didn't believe in.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think what that also brings up is, like, when you're in that situation, and sometimes we don't know really what we want. Sometimes we think we want something, but maybe that's not really the case because we haven't put as much thought into it. It's kind of like in your situation, right? Where before you were indifferent about getting married, but now after having been in it, or having put more time and thinking about it, I feel like your opinion has changed, right? And I think that's okay, people's opinions and perspectives change all the time, right? That's a sign of growth. I think that's a sign of, just seeing more, learning more, and thinking more deeply about certain things. Because somebody could say, "Oh yeah, I don't believe in marriage," but you never really think about, well, have I really put that much thought into that or not?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like it shouldn't. I feel like you don't want to make it a snap decision. It should be something that you really have thought about,
Mm-hmm.
But I agree. Like if you get into the relationship or you choose to get married for the sake of your partner, resentment's going to build, issues are just going to brew, and eventually it's going to explode, right?
Yeah.
All that's going to come pouring out. I don't know. What do you think about that?
No, I agree.
Yeah.
And also people's opinion, your opinion can change.
Mm-hmm.
Just because you feel strongly about not getting married in this relationship doesn't mean that's what you're going to feel with a different relationship.
That's true.
Things can change. You can change.
Yeah. So if you guys don't end up agreeing and that relationship doesn't work, you might you date somebody else. You might actually want to get married to that person. Who knows?
Who knows? Yeah.
Could be a different person.
Every
too.
relationship is different,
right?
And people's and your significant other's perspective or can change your perspective as well.
Yeah. So what do you think about people though that get married purely for economical reasons or financial reasons? What do you think about that?
See, for me, that one's a hard one.
Because like you have, you see it in Hollywood, right? Like certain, you've heard stories, you've seen certain figures where they get married to somebody of wealth and they're, like 50, 60 years age difference between the two people.
Yeah.
Right? You've seen that happen. And you kind of look at the marriage and you're like, wait, why did that person, what was their motivation, right? Yeah. Is it out of love or is it for finance?
Yeah. I mean, truly,
you see that perspective, right?
Yeah. Truly, I believe that you should only get married because
you want to.
You want to.
Right.
But regardless of whatever that reason is. But I think finance to me is just one of those very touchy topics. Just because, it's easy for us to look from the outside and be like, oh, I would never get married for financial reasons, right? Mm-hmm. But I can't sit there and judge someone or say that shouldn't be the case, because if it's that's like their last resort to get them out of a bad situation. Let's say they're in an abusive household or they have kids and this, a lot of things tied to their situation and there's no other way out. And marriage was the way for them to get out out of the issue that they're in.
Yeah.
Then, I can't judge them. Right. But
that's a really good point.
Yeah. Unless I'm in that situation, I can't say anything.
Yeah.
So besides those situations, right? And if you're okay on your own, you have a good family friend support, and you just feel the need to marry for financial because let's say you don't have confidence in yourself, then I think that's something you should reconsider. Just because you could be, you could have a lot of materialistic things and still be unhappy. Then yes, in that situation, then, reconsider.
No, absolutely. Really good point. I didn't think about it that way. What do you think about, now that we've been married and you can see it from both perspectives, right? Being married, not being married, right? Before, do you feel like anything has changed?
I mean, it was a huge change for us because we never lived together.
Right.
Full time, right? It's just like a little sleepover here and there, but
and vacations
Like so we have never lived together, so that was a huge shocker.
Yeah.
To the both of us to live together all day.
Yeah, all day, every day.
All day, every day, right? And just like little quirks, little habits, pet peeves. It's just like it just all got aired out overnight because we didn't move into each other until after we got married.
Yeah.
So that was a shocker. But objectively speaking, if we lived together prior to marriage, I would almost confidently say that probably nothing would have changed.
Yeah, I mean, because we'd probably have had the same routines, right? Same, um, you would have seen that your habits and all those things already, right? It wouldn't be a shocker to you anymore.
Yeah. And prior to being married, we were both committed to the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
We have the same core values. We respect each other,
Yeah.
right? And
we argue well.
we argue well.
You know what I mean by that, right? Like we argue well in the sense that even when we do get into arguments, it's always still respectful, and it's never let me destroy and tear this person down,
And
or
it's
like
never explosive.
call each other names, that and basically stuff that I'm very thankful for is that when we argue, we try our best not to say stuff that we will regret having said later, you know.
Yeah, we would rather
hurtful.
We would rather take a break on that argument than to continue.
We try, right?
We try. I mean,
do our best.
We're human.
We have moments where that can get very bad. Yeah,
we're not perfect by any means, but we do try our best to be as respectful as possible.
Because we recognize the damage that can do, right?
And it's hard to turn back from that moment.
You can't.
Yeah.
Once it's said, once it's done, you're always going to have that memory about it. So
yeah. So,
So basically, it's the same whether we would have gotten married or not, is what you're trying to say.
Yeah, practically. Yeah, probably.
Wow.
How do you feel?
Very close to what you said. Probably, like you said, if we had lived together prior to the marriage and then we entered into marriage living together, yeah, I don't see why much would have changed. Like I was saying earlier, though, probably the biggest thing is that last 5% of commitment, that sense of security. Like I said, also, even though logically I understand it is just a piece of paper, a legal document, the emotional satisfaction and the emotional link that I think it gives me from saying that we're married versus not being married, that's probably the biggest difference. And I feel more connected to you as a team than if we didn't have that. And that's just me speaking personally, right? Not everybody's going to feel that way. For some people, that's completely, the opposite, and it's not even important for them, right? And they'll still feel that same sense of commitment and all that, But that would be it for me. Probably the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I respect that.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Anyways, this was helpful. This was very insightful too. Yeah, for me to kind of see, because we never talk about that,
No.
Not in this level.
No.
So, anything else you would like to add to our audience? What do you think people can kind of take away from this episode?
Yeah. So if you're asking yourself, should you get married or not? That question is like, again, like most
if you were hoping for a definite answer, sorry to disappoint.
Yeah. It depends. It depends on what your goals are, what you want out of that relationship, your belief.
Well, and if you guys share similar goals and core values, right?
Yeah. And yeah, it's at the end of the day, it's something you have to work out with your partner. And if you make a decision, right, ask yourself, am I going to be happy with this decision, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years down the lane? Right? Am I going to regret this decision?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think the decision needs to be yours. Obviously, you need to consider your partner. You need to consider, or you should consider, your family and other factors. But no matter what decision you make sure it's your decision, because you're the one that's in control of your life, right?
Yeah.
And don't let anybody else tell you how you should live your life, even us, right?
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Okay. Well, we hope you guys enjoyed the episode. Hopefully you got some good info out of it, and hopefully we made you think a little bit. I think that's kind of our biggest point is you got to think about it, think it through, both sides, and you'll probably make the best decision based on that. But yes, make sure to follow us on Instagram at Magnetic Mismatch. We have our YouTube channel as well, where you can see our beautiful faces, right? For each episode that comes out at the same time the podcast drops. And then also make sure to give us a 5-star rating and review if you enjoyed this on Apple Podcast.
Yeah. And also make sure you tune in every Thursday. That's when we release our new episode. And also, please share our content with your family and friends. And until next time,
Bye,
bye.
guys.